Anniversary of National Tax Gyan, popularly known as SITG, and first anniversary of FEMA ke Funde, also known as FKF. Today, we are honored to have the presence of a esteemed dignitary, CA Rutvik Sanghvi sir, a senior chartered accountant. He is the learned speaker for today's webinar. Before starting, I would like to take an opportunity to brief you all about FKF and SITG. FKF is a weekly edition published on every Wednesday since 15 June 2022. It presents the practical issues arising in FEMA in its simplest form. And SITG is also a weekly series published on every Saturday since the year 2020. It prominently deals with the discussion on the judgments and concepts of international tax in the most coherent way. It will be an discussion where a learned speaker will present their views, and afterwards, people from our audience can ask questions from them. I'm sure the expertise and experiences of all will help us in gaining the valuable insights. I would like to invite C. Naman Shrimal sir to give you a small update.
Thank you, Yati. A small update is that Pramod Kumar sir had some, last moment emergency, so he is not able to make up to the event today. I, on behalf of the organizing team, I sincerely apologize for the same. But we do have Rutvik, who is a seasoned player in this, I would say, international tax arena, a role model for many, including me. And, for many are youngsters, a chartered accountant. I don't know, I should call myself youngster or not, but many of the listeners, I think his talk would be really, really wonderful, not just on a technical aspect, but also to see how to navigate into your practice, how to be, true to your ethics and remain truthful to your practice is something which I think I have learned from Rutvik and Rashmin sir. And therefore, I think that would be a really, really wonderful thing to just see, because sometimes we listen a lot, practice mein sab karna padta hai, ye cheez karni padti hai, but I think practice mein sirf technically strong hona padta hai, baki sab apne aap follow jata hai, and that is what I've learned from them. So it's an immense pleasure to have Rutvik on our forum, and I sincerely once again apologize, and I'm sure that we will arrange session of Pramod sir once again, but it will be a very, very interactive session today. Rutvik, any which ways, is a man of, I think, many technical colors. So you can ask him query of FEMA, international tax, transfer pricing, and he'll offshoot the answer. So let's be ready for those answers. And Yati, over to you once again.
Thank you, sir. Without further ado, I would like to invite C. Harshita Dhariwal, partner in cross-border transactions. She will present her thoughts with regards to the inception and origination of ideas behind FEMA ke Funde series.
Thank you, Yati. And a very good afternoon to everyone. So while practicing in FEMA, we realized that a lot of non-compliances in FEMA is occurring due to lack of awareness of the subject. And one reason that we analyzed behind it is that FEMA is a very small act in itself, and there are many other things to read. For example, notification, circulation, master directions, etc., which makes it very important to understand as to where to look for a particular thing. So with this vision to make FEMA simple and easy to understand for common man, we bought this concept of FEMA ke Funde, where we present a practical FEMA related manner in a pictorial and comic form. We also believe that we are the biggest beneficiaries of our FEMA ke Funde, as through this we get to read and understand FEMA from various angles. We would like to thank each one of you for your leadership, valuable feedbacks and suggestions that helped us improving day by day and gave us the motivation to release FEMA ke Funde without failing on every Wednesday, be it a holiday, be it a festival, or be it any other situation or scenario. I still remember the time when we initially thought about this idea to start a weekly publication on FEMA, which was surrounded by many doubts as to whether we would be able to do it or not on a regular basis, managing all the work and everything. And what if we will not able to maintain the consistency, etc. But I believe your love and support bring us here, and we look forward to the same support in the coming years. Going forward to the next year, we strive to maintain our consistency and bring content for you in a more simplified and easier manner. Thank you so much. Over to you, Yati.
Thank you, Harshita ma'am, for your valuable insights. Moving forward, we would like to present glimpses of FEMA Ke Fund series in the form of a short video. I would request the team to play the video. Quite nostalgic, right? As we move forward, let us carry this nostalgia with us like a beacon guiding their future endeavors. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker, C. Rutvik Sanghvi sir. C. Rutvik Sanghvi sir is a chartered accountant with over 18 years of professional experience. He is a practicing CA and a partner with Rutvik Sanghvi and Associates. He practices in his core areas of international tax, FEMA regulatory and advisory services, specifically in corporate restructuring, HNI investment and succession planning, FEMA representation, and compliance services. He has contributed to the latest edition of Sampath Iyengar's commentary on income tax law as a part of the editor's team. Alongside, he has co-authored a publication on digital taxation, a holistic view. We are delighted to have CA Rutvik Sanghvi sir with us today, and I invite him to share his insights and experiences with us.
Thank you, Yati, and many thanks to everyone at JSU and Naman for inviting me on this momentous occasion. You know, I think Naman has given credit, credit to probably me and my father, but I think it should be corrected. At the end of the day, acting upon what you wish to do is more important than having some idea and some wish in mind. And that Naman has done it. Naman has been sharing his views, sharing his thoughts from him and his firm on several issues. And on a weekly basis, it is not easy. It is very difficult. I'm sure they must be constantly on the run, because once the one particular FEMA fund is over, then the next discussion starts. And so I'm very sure that he has been working. He and his team have been working. He, Harshita, and everyone have been working very hard on this. And my heartiest congratulations to the whole team, to Naman, on this, on this success. The success is not only just sharing, but continuously sharing data. And FEMA and international tax are two areas where you keep having doubts, where you keep having issues, and where you keep having concerns about what you are doing. Is it right or wrong? And the consequences are so harsh that sometimes you wish that, whether your call which you have taken, can it be confirmed by someone? So I'm sure that, his sharing of thoughts and his knowledge sharing has always helped out a lot. I only wish that they keep continuing this more and more, and I'm sure that they will do so. Our association goes back, I think, more than 15 years, Naman?
Absolutely, KPMG times.
Yeah, I don't want to say more because otherwise our age will creep out. So, yeah, but I am so happy to see that Naman, after our association, when he was here for a short while in Bombay, after going back to Jaipur, he has not left out on what his passion was. He did it, and he did it with a lot of struggle, I'm sure, because it is not easy for us in Bombay. There are associations which help us out. Thankfully, these associations are now branched out online, and therefore everybody can take benefit. But still, in those times, it was difficult, and still Naman branched out into these areas with confidence and with a lot of learning. And he has, I'm sure, the knowledge and the advice that he gives is up to the mark, because he is working hard on it day in, day out. So congratulations to you and your whole team, Naman. And
thank you, Rutvik. That's so nice of you.
No, I'm always happy that people take up and follow up, and these areas are so exciting. So these are some areas which we must always work on. And I'm sure that he's equally focusing on his team so that they also come up to par. And that's happy to note so many of the team are here. Now I have been tasked, and Naman has told me that probably it's better if we keep it in a more interactive, which is what I always like. I wish that this conversation not be one way. It should be, probably more than a dialogue with more of you chipping in. So please feel free that, whatever queries you have. And at the end, I think Naman wanted me to share some insights on the, how to, establish a practice or grow a practice in these areas. I think Naman would be better suited to tell you all, but but I will chip in with my few thoughts. I'm not sure how well and how good I will be. As far as that, to have some topic of discussion which we can all, debate upon, which we can all think about. I think the topic which we decided upon was on LRS, Liberalized Remittance Scheme. In line with his FEMA Fund, I'm sure he has covered those areas time and again. But LRS is such a minefield. I don't know whether that wherever you probably crop up, there's something or the other issue may come up again. So I will ask all the questions, and Naman and his team will answer all the questions. So can I share the screen?
Sure.
Okay. I'm not sure. Are you able to see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. Yeah. So controversies on LRS. I understand that controversies on LRS can take up, probably I've taken sessions of 90 minutes to 120 minutes, and today is not that day. So today we'll focus on only a couple of key issues, which surprisingly have come out from TCS on LRS. So while I can again take up a 60-minute or 120-minute session on TCS, I don't think that's the key issue today. But this is one area which I felt apt, because this is an area where we now, and the most current regulation or rule, which brings in an interplay between income tax and FEMA. And therefore, that is in line with what Naman is doing. He is covering both areas in his weekly, sharing of learnings through SITG and FKF. So I think that's the key area which I thought will let me bring out, that it is not, when you're looking at cross-border transactions, it is not just international tax, it is also FEMA. And probably it is not just FEMA, it is also international tax. So, it's not just one, you have to consider both. And it is high time now that we consider both, because there are serious repercussions under both the laws. So let us, before, taking up more of your time, let me just take it very briefly on the background for those who are, who may not be practicing FEMA daily. FEMA, how it operates, the fundamental aspects of FEMA is that Section 3 of the Foreign Exchange Management Act, it prohibits all dealings in foreign exchange except through any person authorized to deal in foreign exchange. So first is one clear prohibition. I'm not sure of how many of you have the background that before FEMA there was FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. It was considered to be a very draconian law, and there were arrests which were made. The consequences were very harsh, and therefore it stifled foreign investment into India. One of the requirements post-liberalization, do remember that liberalization started in 1991, but it did not take off until the 2000s. Why? Because one of the prime reasons was FERA. Once FERA was scrapped and FEMA came in 2000, that is when the liberalization kicked off, in a large scale. You had a lot of foreign investment coming into India. The McDonald's and the Nikes of the world came to India. And one of the prime reasons that they could come in was because of this liberalization, cutting off FERA and replacing it with FEMA. But at the end of the day, FEMA still required you to consider as if that it was a management act, not a regulation act. It was that RBI will only manage, everything will become civil. There will be no criminal consequences. But as the time passed, it seems that government took a step back. From 2015 onwards, probably FEMA has become, in some limited areas, as draconian as FERA. We are seeing in today's headlines, we have Xiaomi's, transactions which are regulated under by the ED now. Enforcement Directorate has stated that probably there is something wrong. I don't know how many of us here have given forms 15 CSEB on royalty transactions. And those royalty transactions, how many of us we have gone back to see, oh, there is a technical collaboration agreement or not? Obviously, the amounts would be much smaller than what they are here. So one must always keep in mind that laws, even though in principle you may have complied with the law, if the amounts are very large, it means that you have to do deep scrutiny. The transaction, wherever we are handling, it should not be discounted on the basis that, okay, I have followed the principle of law, I have done everything that I can. If the amounts are too large, we must step back and say that, okay, what am I doing on a daily basis? Is that enough for such a huge transaction? That is what has gone wrong here. Obviously, there could be much more behind the scenes that we are not aware of in this particular case. But this could be a starting point to understand that if you are transferring some 5,000 crores out of India, it means that it needs a clear vision about what is happening, what is not happening. If you don't have that full vision, if you as a CA are not provided that data or information, I would strongly suggest you step back at whatever cost it may be. Today, the departments do not shy away from, filing charges even against chartered accountants. There was a time when chartered accountants were considered above board and they were not touched. But those days are gone. And probably in some limited sense, it isn't wrong also, because the transactions which leave India, the amounts which leave India, if they are not caught properly, if they are not analyzed properly, it can have serious repercussions on the Indian economy also, as is the fact with the case which I mentioned. So we as chartered accountants are, tasked with a lot of responsibility, whether said or unsaid. And that is very much reflected in the recent amendments to PMLA. So I think considering that, whatever may be our grievance, whatever we may feel that is it right or wrong, irrespective of what the law requires, should we or should we not do that is something which we must think about. Should we or should we not fully do our due diligence? Should we or should we not fully apply our mind to a case where it requires so? I think that is what is called as a chartered accountant, and that is what a true professionalism requires. So I think so that is something which I wanted to start with. FEMA, how it operates is Section 3, Section 4 lays down that no person resident in India shall acquire, hold, own. So everything is so blanket prohibition. You can read the words. It is that no person resident in India shall acquire, hold, own, possess, or transfer any foreign exchange. As if that after Section 4, you can very well close the FEMA Act and say that, okay, मुझे कुछ करना नहीं है, मैं कुछ कर नहीं पाता हूँ. So that is not the story, because then Section 7 has rules for exports of goods and services. Section 8 has realization, repatriation of foreign exchange. But the key provisions are on Sections 5 and Section 6, which we all deal on a daily basis with. Section 5 and Section 6 bring out the current and capital account transactions rules. Section 5 says any person may sell or draw foreign exchange to or from an authorized person if such sale or drawal is a current account transaction. This section, out of all these operative sections, the main operative sections, Sections 3, 4, 7, 8, and 6, is the only section which says you may sell or draw foreign exchange as long as it is a current account transaction. We don't want to bother about it. This is the first section which gives you freedom to do what you wish as long as it is a current account transaction. Then obviously with every kind of relief, there will be a proviso to it. So then there's a proviso which says that central government may in public interest impose such reasonable restrictions as may be prescribed, under which you have a FEMA current account transaction rule. So that is fine. They may apply some reasonable restrictions, but prima facie current account transactions are able to be done freely is the underlying objective. Contrast that with Section 6, which talks about capital account transactions, and it says that any person may sell or draw foreign exchange, but subject to what the RBI or the central government now may prescribe, regulate, prohibit, or restrict. Under which now RBI has powers only to do debt transactions, and therefore you have the NDI rules and the overseas investment rules and regulations. But what I'm sorry, I think it's written draft overseas. I'm sorry, it's gone on from, but you have the it should be the non-debt instrument rules and the OI rules and regulations. Now, capital account transaction, what it means? It means a transaction which alters the assets or liabilities as for outside India of persons resident in India, and in India of persons resident outside India. Kind of simple. So it tries to say that any cross-border kind of transaction which alters the assets or liabilities, you will be considered to have a capital account transaction. If it alters the assets or liabilities, it's a capital account transaction. Current is anything other than capital. And therefore, a clear good example would be a case where a loan which you take from an overseas lender, it becomes a capital account transaction which alters your liability outside India. The interest that you pay on that loan is a current account transaction because it does not alter any asset or liability. At the same time, if tomorrow you ask me that, okay, I have purchased the machinery outside India, I want to import it into India. Is there any current asset or liability? Yes, there is an asset. Definitely, as per accounting parlance, you have a machinery which is lying outside India. But the moment you import it into India, there is no alteration of assets or liabilities in a cross-border fashion. Yes, my assets and liabilities did change, but they changed within India because I imported it into India. If I had said that, no, I will maintain that machinery outside India, which under FEMA anyways is difficult to do so. But let us say, for example, that it's possible to do that. Then yes, I have an asset outside India, and therefore it alters my assets or liabilities, and therefore it is a capital account transaction. And that is why owning an immovable property outside India is coming under the LRS route, because it is a capital account transaction, but allowed specifically under the liberalized remittance scheme. Otherwise, it is not allowed for you to do so. So this is the kind of context one must appreciate the difference between the current and the capital account transactions. The base philosophy is current account transaction, everything is permitted unless prohibited. Capital account transaction, everything is prohibited unless permitted. Because as I mentioned to you, Section 6, while it says for capital account transactions, you may draw and RBI or central government may prohibit. The first notification, FEMA notification 1 on capital account transaction says there will be no draw allowed unless permitted. So that is how they have worded it, and that is how it operates. So this is a clear distinction between current and capital. Obviously, reality is different in the sense that when you go and approach the banks, there are certain current account transactions which they refuse to allow you. There are certain transactions which the banks refuse to appreciate it's a current or a capital account transaction. So these are challenges which you face and which you will have to surmount, because banks are also to be taught in some cases by us on what is the correct law and what is the correct procedure. But that apart, the law stands on the fact that current account transaction, everything is permitted unless prohibited. And capital account, everything is prohibited unless permitted. Now, what under current account transaction, why is the reality somewhat different? It says the government has a power to impose reasonable restrictions on current account transactions, which has been done through the current account transaction rules. So let us look at current account transaction rules. In short, I have written CAT. CAT is divided into 3 areas: Rule 3, Rule 4, and Rule 5. Rule 3 says total prohibition. So any remittances out of lottery winning or out of income from any remittance out of. So you earn, say Naman tomorrow wins a lottery of 10 crores. Obviously, he will retire also probably. But at the same time, he won't be able to remit out of India as far as those funds are concerned. That's a total prohibition. Then for purchase of lottery tickets, proscribed magazine, football pools, sweepstakes, callback services, all these are things which are prohibited. I have focused more on the individual kind of transactions because we are discussing about LRS. But these are ones which are totally prohibited as per Rule 3. Rule 4 is something which says not allowed without prior approval of Government of India. They have cultural tours, hiring charges of transponders. Again, here more of corporate transactions which are captured and which are said that unless you get an approval from GOI, you will not allow. Rule 5 says not allowed without prior approval of RBI. So you can see there's a downward scale. Totally prohibited, permitted only if central government approves, permitted only if RBI approves. That is Schedule 3. And Schedule 3 talks about gifts, donations, foreign travel, both private and business, health, education, immigration. This is what we encounter every day on daily basis from our clients. That I want to remit for my son's education. I want to go on a foreign travel. This is what is covered under Schedule 3 of the current account transaction rules. These were obviously there since 2000. LRS came in 2004, mind you. So this is already there. Current account transaction rules already allowed you to remit. They had certain restrictions, certain remits per transaction. What does drawal mean? Drawal means drawal of foreign exchange from an authorized person and includes opening of letter of credit, use of international credit card, debit card, ATM card. So all those areas which you may employ to use are all covered under the drawal of foreign exchange. But current account transaction rules had a specific rule, rule number 7, which say that nothing contained in Rule 5. You may have noticed here, Rule 5 says not allowed without prior approval of RBI. And then you have Rule 7, which says nothing contained in Rule 5 should apply to the use of international credit cards for making a payment by a person towards meeting expenses while such person is on a visit outside India. This was the rule which made it that if I'm using ICC credit, if I'm using an ICC outside India, then it is outside current account transaction rules. This is there before the LRS rules actually came into play. And therefore, in a sense, you're also outside the LRS because current account transaction rules are something from which LRS is derived. So if that be the case, then an international credit card used outside India had no issues. Obviously, the LRS limit itself is nowadays high. $250,000 is kind of sufficient for most of the people. But obviously, then this is India. There will always be HNIs who will want to spend more, and there are some HNIs who want to see to it that how can I leave my limit? It is like that, when my mother travels to the US, she says कि अरे बैग में खाली नहीं रहना चाहिए, सब भर डालो. 32 kilos है, 2 bags allowed है, मुझे सब भरना है. This is the way that some HNIs act. अरे $2.5 lakh का लिमिट है, चलो भेज दो. नहीं कुछ यूज नहीं है बट डाल दो, बाहर रख देते हैं. क्या पता कल वो लिमिट चेंज हो जाए तो. Which in fact is fine, meaning they are allowed to do so. Why not? And that is where some HNIs ended up spending more than that $250,000 through international credit cards, because international credit cards was clearly allowed by them. They could go abroad while on a visit outside India, they would swipe and use it for the purpose of spends abroad outside India. But what has happened is that TCS, in the recent amendments which have happened, they have tried to bring to tax these international credit cards. So let me, before going into this particular slide, let me give some background. We all know what has happened. Tax collection at source, they started on LRS spends. They said that, okay, whatever you're spending through LRS, we want to apply a TCS rate. Earlier, it was 5% and 20% on overseas tours. And from 1st July onwards, it will be on 20% on everything. But the fact remains is that international credit card was going out of it because international credit card was not under LRS. So usko TCS kaise lagayenge? So then they thought, and this is the checkered history of it. 27 June 2002, ICCs were allowed as a separate limit for foreign spends on internet. That was the first circular for international credit card. 15 January 2003, UN ICC credit card usage outside India is exempted from CAT rules itself. There was a specific amendment made. The 2000 rules, current account transaction rules came in 2000. 15 January 2003, international credit card usage was restricted as long as it was outside India, exempted from the CAT rules. फिर आया 4th February 2004 when the LRS was introduced. We still remember it was on a platform where the associations had called, Bombay Chartered Account Society and Chamber of Tax Consultants had called RBI officers. And on the platform of that seminar, they came forward and said, we have too much foreign exchange. That was, in those times it was less than $100 million. But then they felt, oh my God, there's too much foreign exchange. You take LRS funds and you throw in the Alps, you throw in the Arabian Sea, we don't care. That was the attitude and that was the principle. LRS funds were a free for all limit. The limit was itself small, $25,000, which later on increased to $250,000. But the prima facie understanding was that you can go ahead and do what you wish as long as it is within the LRS limit. Everything was combined in it. You could spend for capital account transactions, you could spend for current account transactions. There were limits in those times for specific current account transactions, gifts not over $5,000, donation not over $5,000. So अगर आपको उससे भी ज़्यादा करना है, ठीक है, आप कीजिए up to $25,000, we have no issues. So these were those limits. But on 1st June 2015, when they increased the LRS limit itself, they said by all separate limits which are there under current account transaction rules, we'll subsume, we'll club everything together now. Now no separate limits. कहाँ track रखेंगे gift का आपका cross हुआ नहीं हुआ, छोड़ दो वो सब. We will now keep everything under one limit, one roof, which is $250,000. Obviously, even then, international credit card usage was still not taken out, so that was still available. Then 2023, Finance Minister from the floor of the Parliament says that I request RBI to allow international credit card usage to be brought under the TCS net. Now, who controls current account transaction rules? Current account transaction rules, as we learned, is under the Foreign Exchange Management Act. Foreign Exchange Management Act के अंदर से current account transaction rules have been issued. Current account transaction rules is a baby of the finance minister. RBI is only supposed to administer them. तो हुआ ऐसा कि उन्होंने रिक्वेस्ट किया आरबीआई को, फिर प्रोबेबली 1-2 वीक के बाद रियलाइज किया, अरे बाप रे, ये तो अपने कमांड में, अपने कंट्रोल में, आरबीआई को पूछने जा रहे हैं. So that is when they turned around and there was a finance ministry circle which said that international credit cards will be removed from CAT. Rule 7 was abolished. That is happened in 16 January 2023. 16 के बाद 17 को कुछ हुआ, 18 को कुछ हुआ. Finally, because international credit card तभी निकला. वैसे तो उनको टैक्स करना था, टीसीएस तो लगाना ही था. इंटरनेशनल क्रेडिट कार्ड निकाला, which anyways was being used by few HNIs, but suddenly there was an uproar. क्योंकि अभी क्या हुआ, अभी चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट के अमेंडमेंट्स नहीं डिस्कस हो रहे, अभी बाकी सारे अमेंडमेंट्स को हो चुके डिस्कशन. फाइनेंस बिल में वो सब लाइमलाइट में आ गए थे, टीसीएस साइड में रह गया. अभी कुछ सब फ्री बैठे थे, सबने बोला अरे ये कैसे हो गया यार, ये तो इन लोग अपने पे 20% लगा रहे हैं. Everything, there was a hue and cry, and therefore they came back. They turned back as usual with the tax department when they come with half-baked amendments. They came back and said, "Abhi now exemption reinstated up to rupees 7 lakhs because they had brought in the 7 lakh limit. They removed it." So all this finally kya ho gaya? Let us look at that. 1st February 2023, Finance Bill proposed to remove rupees 7 lakh threshold for TCS. There has been TCS since earlier, and there is a threshold for 7 lakh rupees. Finance bill said कि वो 7 lakh threshold हम निकाल रहे हैं. Everything will be under TCS net and whatever is not education or health सीधा 20% लगेगा, आप करो मजा. So then 24th March 2023 Finance Act was passed. 7 lakh threshold निकाल दिया, and that is when on the floor of Parliament, Ma'am Nirmala Sitharaman made a comment कि भाई ICC को भी लाना है under LRS. Obviously उनको 1-2 महीना लग गया to realize कि हम ही खुद ही कर सकते हैं. तो then they did it. On 16th May 2023, government removes the ICC exemption from CAT. Hue and cry. 18th May FAQs आ गए, relaxing the rigors of TCS on LRS. कि बाबा ये चलेगा, वो नहीं चलेगा, but threshold को नहीं निकाला. They still said कि भाई ठीक है, क्या allowed है, क्या नहीं है. FAQs till today are not issued by any notification or circular. Mind you, it is only by tweet. Meaning this is a government which runs on Twitter, mind you. If you want any action to be taken, unko tweet karo. MTNL फोन लाइन बिगड़ गया है कि इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न फाइल नहीं हो रहा है, सब कुछ हैज टू डन थ्रू ट्विटर। आई थिंक दे आल्सो अप्रिशिएटेड इट, तो उन्होंने नोटिफिकेशन भी ट्विटर से इश्यू कर डाला है, FAQ तो कर डाले विदाउट एनी लेटर हेड, आई थिंक राइट, कुछ लेटर हेड नहीं है ना कुछ।
यस, कुछ भी नहीं है।
आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग, हाँ किसने इश्यू किया वो भी नहीं लिखा है।
हाँ,
Correct,
it is just a
correct.
tweet.
स्क्रीनशॉट
Actually,
रखना पड़ेगा।
I was finding it, but I was unable
हाँ।
to find. Then I came to the conclusion कि है ही नहीं, तो मिलेगा कहाँ
है
से?
ही नहीं, कहाँ से आया? कल तो ट्वीट डिलीट कर डालेंगे हम लोग, तो रह जाएंगे ऐसे। Anyways, I think the idea was that they wanted to give some FAQs to relax the rigors. इधर से आ गया, और इधर से तो और भी अच्छी तरह से आ गया। Now they say that government exempts small transactions up to ₹7 lakhs on international credit card and international debit cards from LRS itself. LRS से निकाल देते हैं हमारे, ये TCS BCS छोड़ दे, वो बाजू में पूरा LRS से निकाल देते हैं। So what has happened? Our LRS limit has increased to $2.5 lakh plus INR 7 lakh rupees. That is our new limit. अब सब लोग इंटरनेशनल डेबिट कार्ड और क्रेडिट कार्ड ले लो, 7 लाख तक आप बिंदास यूज करो, LRS में है ही नहीं, TCS की बात ही कहाँ आ गई? So this is the position which has happened today. And obviously, as it happens, if you have a amendment which is or an provision which is not well thought through, this is bound to happen. The reason also because credit card transactions, LRS remittances are a day in, day out transaction. How many businessmen, how many individuals transact on are incurring transactions on a daily basis which are caught under LRS? तो कितने सारे transactions है, ये सोचा नहीं पहले, or even if they did not see what impact it will have. But anyways, so today we are at a position where we have limits. TCS लाने के बहाने अपना LRS लिमिट बढ़ गया, so चलो well and good, अच्छा ही है। These are the amendments which have happened in the Finance Act 2023. I'll just lightly touch upon it and I'll come to a case where we can have some discussion. TCS rate on LRS will be 20% from 1st July 2023. Threshold of INR 7 lakhs यहाँ से निकाल दिया है, वहाँ पे लेके आए हैं from LRS. No change in remittance for education or medical purpose. कुछ change नहीं लाया. There was a severe representation being made because it is sadistic to have TCS on education and medical in fact even more. You are spending overseas for some medical reason. Can you imagine what that person is going through? उसको आप बोल रहे हो नहीं हम आपको 5% TCS लगाएंगे, हमें क्या पता आप कहाँ से ला रहे हो? अरे भाई जो पूछना है पूछ लो उनसे, पर आप नोटिस इश्यू करो, समन्स इश्यू करो, बट हाउ कैन यू मेक देम चार्ज एंड पे 5%? मीनिंग लोग बोलते हैं 5% में क्या है भाई? लुक एट अ फैमिली एंड देयर आर फैमिलीज व्हिच हैव कम टू अस आस्किंग कि भाई हमारा तो इससे भी ज्यादा खर्चा होने वाला है, एंड वी हैव टोल्ड देम दैट गो अहेड, टेल द बैंक अलाउ करेगी, एंड दैट बैंक इज आल्सो वेरी ह्यूमन इन दीज एरियाज। RBI इज आल्सो ह्यूमन, इसीलिए तो ऐसा लॉ बनाया। बट नहीं, हमें TCS चाहिए, हमें पता नहीं चल रहा है ना, इतना सारा पैन लिंक बैंक अकाउंट से जा रहा है बट हमें नहीं पता चल रहा है। सो फ्रॉम दैट एग्जांपल दे वांटेड टू लेवी सम 5% ऑन इट। ऊपर से कोई ने बोरोइंग करके किया रहेगा तो भी आधा टका तो भरो ही। यू कैन इमेजिन दैट पर्सन इज ऑलरेडी बोरोइंग, वो बेचारा बोरो कर रहा है और मेडिकल खर्चा कर रहा है, जो उसको बेचारे इज ऑलरेडी क्रॉसिंग ऑल लिमिट्स, उसको बोल रहे थोड़ा और बोरो कर लो, जरा आधा टका और बोरो कर लो। मीनिंग it is not about the percentage, it is about the thought behind it, that you can be so sadistic to ask somebody who is going through a health issue, उसको borrow करना पड़ रहा है, उसको बोल रहे हो आप आधा टका और borrow। Meaning it is not about anything else, but it is about the person's thought process, what it would go through, that कि भाई गवर्नमेंट ऐसे मांग रहे हैं डेटा और ऐसा मांग रहा है, भाई मांग लो ना, हम आपको जो फॉर्म चाहिए वो भर देंगे आप।
There are various other ways to find it. There are numerous ways in this GST, in this normal filing, everything, bank account, there are so many ways.
So many ways. I think when we represented on it, I at least counted 7 different manners in which the RBI and the income tax board put together are asking data on LRS. कहाँ ना कहाँ से तो उनको मिल रहा है, but फिर भी नहीं कर पा रहे, तो यानी ऐसा लगता है it is like it's like a blind person reading a newspaper. सब डेटा तो है अपने पास, but कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है क्या है, it is something like that. So anyways, it's that is what has happened. Now as a LRS limit did not apply, I already covered that. Relaxation has been removed. The issue is that anyway, so I think this part we have covered. Let me go to the FAQs. FAQs क्या बता रहा है? That what about business visit of employees? So there are certain FAQs which one must go through to just understand what they have tried to bring out. I am not covering because I know it's a short duration talk here, so I will not focus on the issues here. When an employee is deputed abroad, the expenses are borne by the employer. These expenses will be outside LRS and may be permitted by bank without any limit. ऐसा इनका कहना है. This is the first time there is a clear admittance that not everything is LRS. Okay, they have used in fact the words that residual current account transactions. What do you mean by residual current account transactions? हम तो ऐसे मानते चले सब कुछ current account is LRS. No, that is not the case. Where only specified transactions are under LRS, rest everything is under residual, especially when it comes to corporates making payments for the business travel. Because वो भी तो है current account ही है, but it is not under LRS. This is the first admittance to it. But what condition? That they should be bona fide. And who will dictate, who will consider it? The AD bank. The AD bank will decide कि अरे भाई तुमने एम्प्लॉय को डिप्यूट किया अब्रॉड. दिस इज द काइंड ऑफ आई वुड पुट इट दिस वे कि यू आर reversing time. You're reversing time. Under FEMA, we have our guru, Shri Dilip Bhai Thakkar. And Shri Dilip Bhai Thakkar has once cited an example that one of his clients is a director who had to travel abroad. And when he was going to travel abroad, in those times under FERA, you had a business travel quota, BTQ. So, वो कोटा के लिए आपको जाना पड़ता था RBI के पास कि भाई हमें जाना है, हमें अलाउ कीजिए. In fact, out of that is one movie of Raj Kapoor, Around the World in $8, because that time the limit of travel abroad was $8. So आपको $8 मिलते थे ट्रैवल करने के लिए, तो उसमें जितना हो सके उतना करो भाई. Now, obviously, dollar was much more valued at that time, but irrespective, the fact is that the director was told, and these are Dilip Bhai's words, that the director was told कि भाई आप फॉरेन में ट्रैवल करने जा रहे हो, आप वीकेंड पे क्या बिजनेस करोगे? ऐसा करो आप वापस आ जाओ, आप सैटरडे को वापस आ जाओ, मंडे को वापस जाना. अरे ऐसा कोई करता है क्या? So this is the ludicrousity which was existing that time. Today they are trying to bring it back through a back door. एडी बैंक क्या बोलेगा? एडी बैंक तो बोलेगा ना कि हाँ तो ये आपके एम्प्लॉय वीकेंड को क्या कर रहे हैं, छोड़ दो ना उनको वो टाइम पे हम कैसे अलाउ करेंगे. See, these are the issues which are coming up when you thrust one rule upon two other people who have nothing to do with it. एडी बैंक को क्या इंटरेस्ट है, उसको क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है, बट उसको आपने रिस्पॉन्सिबल कर दिया टीसीएस काटने के लिए. वो तो बोलेगा भाई मैं तो टीसीएस काटू, मुझे क्या पता आपका बोनाफाइड है या नहीं है. This is the reality of the situation which people are not appreciating. But anyways, so this is one area. For travel and incidental expenses related to education and medical treatment, lower rate should only apply. कहाँ से? Law में किधर ये लिखा है?
How would you find it out? Yeah.
How will you find it out? Detailed clarification to be issued separately. अरे भाई law में कहाँ है? Law में तो आपने लिखा नहीं है ऐसा. आपने education और health specific लिखा है. Now travel related to that, you are saying tomorrow some officer will say कि अरे कहाँ ये तो travel related to health है ही नहीं. How will
And
you
banks will take a narrower position only, na? They would not take a broader view. So bank बोलेगा मेरे को तो ये बोला है, खत्म. That's it.
Very true, correct. So anyways, these kind of clarifications जो आएंगे, see, you are bringing in more and more compliance. You are trying to bring in for what reason? For trying to get some data, trying to gather some revenue. Reasons तो बताया ही नहीं हमें. पहले जब से TCS आया तभी कोई रीजन नहीं बताया. 5 to 20% किया तभी कोई रीजन नहीं बताया. Now they have given through FAQs. They have given certain reason. 20% rate is not too high, even for those having taxable income. ये कोई reason होता है क्या? 20% rate is not too high is a reason to bring in a tax. If that is the only reason, then तो सब पे लगाओ ना. Even farmers will be able to pay some tax. लगा दो ना, क्यों नहीं लगा पा रहे हो? So the point here is that they have no reason at all, or even if they do, they are not able to come out with it. Are they trying to kind of bring down those transactions? Are they trying to इतना $1 billion हो रहा है, इतना $1 billion हो रहा है? अरे भाई तो आपने अलाउ किया ना, आपको आरबीआई को बोलो नहीं करे, अगर नहीं करवाना है तो उस पे टीसीएस क्यों लगवा रहे हो? Anyways, their reasons which are given are not reasons at all. First of all, they are not at all reasons. So we are still in a quandary about what exactly they want to get at. But ठीक है, जो भी है so अभी उन्होंने सब ICC transaction सब कुछ they brought in the LRS net. And this is the final position today. I tried to bring out what was there as per 2020 amendment, then 2023 finance bill, and then finance act. While you all would be aware of this, I think the finance bill and act के बीच का जो difference है, that are two differences which are covered in the last two rows. One, transaction which does not lead to remittance out of India was not covered in the Finance Act 2020. So what does this mean? It means LRS remittances, we will always think India cannot be. If I am giving a gift to my non-resident brother, I can give that gift to his NRO account. Now, that amount, if it goes into his NRO account, is not a remittance out of India. So that was falling out of the TCS net. Obviously, somebody must have commented, अरे ये तो रह गया, छूट गया, तो obviously उन्होंने amend कर डाला वो भी. Finance bill से Finance Act में आते पहले ही amend हो चुका. So now you have to consider TCS also on that. Payment through international credit cards, वो तो हमने already discuss किया. It was not applicable till 16th May. अभी वो सब बदल गया and they will try to apply with some exemption again. So let us come to some case study. Mr. A pays royalty under LRS to the US company. The royalty is taxable under the income tax act. Let us assume that. और DTAA में भी है. चलो छोड़ दो सब engineering analysis को बाजू में रखते हैं एक बार. Being a payment to non-resident and some chargeable to tax, section 195 applies. First question that you must answer is TCS लगाने के पहले कि whether payment of royalty is a remittance covered under LRS or not. This is a key issue. This is the point which I wanted to drive home. Whether all business payments were sought to be covered under LRS anytime. And for that matter, if you notice here, what do you have? Rule 3, Rule 4, Rule 5. We talked about Rule 5 where RBI permission is required. Schedule 3 is the only area where you have LRS. Schedule 3 is the only area where you are covering under LRS. So how does it come about? You have to look at FEMA notification 1 on capital account transactions. LRS has been born out of that because LRS is a scheme. उस scheme के लिए कोई notification वैसा नहीं है, सीधा एक master direction है. तो आता कहाँ से है? That is one where you must go to the current account. You must transaction rules. Capital account transaction rules. Rule 4 says, save as otherwise provided in this act, rules or regulations thereunder, no person shall undertake or sell out of foreign exchange to or from an authorized person for any capital account transaction. ठीक है. The blanket prohibition जो आपने बात कर ली, वो हर बार उनका ये attitude है. उसमें फिर उन्होंने proviso डाला है. Provided that clause A, subject to the provisions of the act or the rules or regulations or directions or order made or issued thereunder, ये तो अभी standard हो गया. गीता में जैसे बोलते हैं ना, ऐसे पट करके पहले इतना तो बोल ही देने का. A resident individual may draw from an authorized person foreign exchange not exceeding USD 250,000 per financial year, or such amount as may be decided by Reserve Bank from time to time for a capital account transaction specified in Schedule 1. This is where the $250,000 limit comes in for capital account transactions as per Schedule 1. फिर उन्होंने explanation दिया है उसे बोला है drawal of foreign exchange as per item number 1 of Schedule 3 to Foreign Exchange Management Current Account Transaction Rules dated 3rd May 2000 as amended from time to time shall be subsumed within the limit under proviso A above. What does that mean? That means that current account transaction rules के Schedule 3 में item 1 जो है उसी को हम सिर्फ कवर करना चाह रहे हैं, उसके जो सारे लिमिट्स है वो सबस्यूम कर डाले हैं. Which means that my transactions of gifts, donation, foreign travel, business travel, health, education, ये सब हो गया, ठीक है, सब covered है, but only that, not my payment as a professional for the payment of software. If today I have to pay for Zoom, if I have to tomorrow pay as an individual professional, if I have to pay for that, to my mind, it does not get covered under LRS at all. That is what is actually missing out in the discussions and debates which we are having, because people are saying कि भाई चलो उस पे तो हम TDS and LRS हम लोग royalty पे tax TDS काट लेते हैं तो फिर TCS नहीं लगेगा. That's a different thing. First and prima facie वो LRS के नीचे ही नहीं है. And therefore the quick question comes in that if by applying some decision or some treaty analysis I come to a conclusion कि भाई इसमें royalty तो लग ही नहीं रहा है, tax लग ही नहीं रहा है, does not mean कि मैं TCS लगाऊं. It means that I am out of the net of both TDS and TCS. This is a call which needs to be brought out, which is a point which needs to be hammered. कि भाई LRS was not covering everything. वो एक अलग बात है कि LRS में उन्होंने clause 9 डाल दिया है covering any other current account transaction, but वो Schedule 1 के नीचे ही है. उस Schedule 1 के नीचे आप क्या और करना चाह रहे हो? For which you have to go back to the 2015 master direction, which said that Schedule 1 में जो कुछ लिखा हुआ था जो उन्होंने उड़ा दिया, वो चीजें ही सिर्फ कवर करना चाह रहे थे on any other current account transaction which was anyways under Schedule 1, Rule 1. This is a point which I wanted to bring out, that please bear in mind, not everything is covered. Yes, लगेगा कह रहे ये तो सब वैसे कवर हो ही जा रहा है, foreign travel, health, education वगैरह, but there are so many business payments. Do you mean to say that every business payment is covered under current account transaction rules? There are so many proprietors. I'm very sure that even in Jaipur and in Bombay, individual promoters, individual people, proprietors, trading in crores of goods every year.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Right? There will be so many jewelers, there will be so many other things which are being sold. हमारे यहाँ पे आप कोलाबा में जाओगे तो there will be shop owners, proprietorship run कर रहे हैं, but they are earning crores of rupees. They are doing transactions. उनको क्या आप ऐसा बोलोगे कि आप import कर रहे हो goods और $2.5 लाख तक ही लेना? That's unimaginable. And that was never the case. Because current account transaction rules are always allowed those transactions. They only were restricting capital account transactions. ठीक है, current account transaction rules में आप क्या करना चाह रहे हो? Personal transactions, आपके personal gifts, donations, आपके जो ये foreign travel है, ठीक है, उसमें business travel भी उन्होंने include किया है, no doubt. Fine. But that was the only transactions which were limited. There are specific 8 transactions which are limited. Other than that, none of them are limited. And that only would be getting caught under TCS also. Okay, it's a big chunk, and therefore a lot of things will get covered. Both revenue milega government go for a short time, but okay, they will get what they want, but it is only to that limited extent. Let us assume कि भाई TDS cover भी हो जाता है. Let us consider that it's a payment where you are considering कि भाई मैंने tax भी काटा है 20% पे 80,000 रह गया. How will it be proved to the bank? Because what the provision says, TCS on LRS, in the last point, if you notice, TCS on LRS does not apply if tax is deductible at source under any other provision and has been deducted. TCS is happening at the time of transaction. TDS मेरा होता है at the time of transaction. Payment तो बाद में होता है. Deductible है, but finally payment भी अगर government को कर देंगे, return filing तो उसके बाद है. So what I have to do it before I transact with the non-resident? कि रुको पहले मुझे TDS रिटर्न फाइल करने दो, फिर मैं आपको पेमेंट करूंगा. So these are the problems which we are facing, which they are frankly speaking, I don't know how much they have thought through this. Anyways, let us take another simple transaction. And Naman and everyone, please chip in if there is any other view you would like to have, and definitely let's have a discussion here. Mr. A gives 25 lakhs to rupees 25 lakhs under LRS to the NRO account of Mr. B, his relative, staying in USA on 30th June 2023. There is no tax, but does TCS apply? As I already explained you, transfer is within India. उन्होंने लेके आए provision removing the words out of India only from 1st July. So 30 जून तक आपको जो गिफ्ट देना है दे दो NRO account में. Obviously words are but section 918 deems that income or that gift to arise within India, and 56(2)(10) says कि वो taxable हो रहा है. So now for a moment, let me not go into the argument for arising for a moment, because gift in my view never arises. It is on receipt, but ठीक है, let us for a moment discount that fact. Considering Income Tax Act, tax is deductible at source on the gift. If tax is deducted, TCS provision will not apply. But now let us, I'm sorry, there's some anomaly here. What about India, Australia DT? Let us look at India, Australia DT. Article 22 of the India, Australia DT, income not expressly mentioned, brings to tax income of an Australian resident only in Australia. There are some issues on Article 23 of the Australian DT. I don't want to get into it right now, but point I'm trying to make here is the income not expressly mentioned brings to tax income only in Australia. Gift received by Mr. B would not be taxable in India because of the treaty provision. Let us assume that Mr. B provides all the necessary TRC वगैरह सब दे दिया. Mr. A will not deduct tax at source under 195. तो उसका मतलब TCS लगाएंगे. इतना मेहनत करोगे आप, करे चलो भाई इसको TDS ना काटो, तो सडनली आके बैठोगे कि नहीं अभी तो आप 20% भरो पहले, फिर आपको भेजने देंगे पैसा. So this is the problem which lies in this fact. Maybe they want to cover gifts. I don't know what. Their focus has been on overseas tour and travel. To my mind, what a limited interaction I had, it seems that they are having a gap of information and a gap of understanding. दो चीज है. Gap of information comes after. First is the gap of understanding. RBI clearly allows you under LRS to consolidate your funds and send it for certain purposes. Irrespective, what they are saying that you can use your own funds to send under LRS. What do you mean by own funds? Own funds does it mean कि मैं खुद ही income कमा के फिर ही भेजूं? No. It also means that if I have received a gift and I send a remittance, once I receive a gift, they are my own funds.
Absolutely.
And it is operating. Do you think a minor child who is going abroad for studies, उसके खुद के पास इतना पैसा है कि वो studies के लिए भेजेगा? Obviously not. His parents will transfer some amount into his account. Then the child will remit it abroad for his school fees, right? So वो child ने तो कभी return file किया नहीं है. That is where the gap of information they are feeling. करे ऐसे कैसे बंदे जो लाख डॉलर भेज रहे, 2 लाख डॉलर भेज रहे, बट कभी रिटर्न फाइल ही नहीं किया है. That is what is rankling them. Instead of asking for the data, instead of understanding what does own funds mean, they are coming back onto the fact that कि भाई डेटा नहीं है तो सब पे 20% लगा दो. इन लोग टूर एंड ट्रैवल करते कैसे रिटर्न फाइलिंग के बगैर? अरे भाई, if I can give to my spouse is spending it for the overseas tour and travel, does it mean that go income taxed income नहीं है? I am doing it to a pan linked bank account. अगर वही करना था मुझे, टीसीएस भी बचाना था, टीडीएस भी बचाना, टैक्स भी बचाना था, तो मैं बैंक अकाउंट के थ्रू करता. That is where the gap of understanding lies, and that gap of understanding has resulted in such provisions which will unnecessarily create a headache on a daily basis for so many people who are remitting abroad. They will have to consider, they will have to ask for the bank, TCS bank कैसे काटेगा. Today morning we had an excellent session by C Harshal Bhuta. किसी को पता नहीं कैसे डिडक्ट होने वाला है, सब अपने अपने तुक्के मार, तो किसी को नहीं पता जेन्युइनली. अभी क्या करें, अभी दे डोंट नो, वी डोंट नो, आई प्रोबेबली टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट डजंट नो, बिकॉज दे आल्सो आर फिगरिंग आउट कि भाई करे क्या अभी. एंड
they are coming out with FAQ on 15th July है ना, कल वो आया था 15 जुलाई को.
1 जुलाई to 15 जुलाई क्या करोगे नमन? सो होपफुली 30 जून तक का चाहे है कि भाई वी आर पोस्टपोनिंग, फिर वो पोस्टपोनमेंट चलता रहे, तो तब तक अपन लोग ऐसे
and we debate after 3 months also the same thing then.
Yeah, correct. So I think in conclusion, what I want to say is that there are mixture of two big provisions. LRS scheme has undergone change over time. Intent जो था भाई आप जो करना है वो करो, वो तो सब उड़ा दिया उन्होंने. बोले कि नहीं अभी तो आप 180 दिन में पैसा वापस लेके आओ. So that whole intent has got washed. What changes they are making, they are also not in the best manner possible, and there is a lack of institutional memory within RBI. Our interactions with RBI officers shows कि भाई उनको खुद को LRS क्या purpose था वो नहीं पता है. Excellent book, Advice and Dissent by Dr. Y.B. Reddy, ex-governor of RBI. In it, he has covered the point that how LRS was actually came into play. It was Mr. Jaswant Singh as finance minister who told कि भाई थोड़ा तो दो यार, ये क्या इतने you are liberalizing to so much extent, तो थोड़ा तो दे दो industrialists and individuals को, जो करना है वो करे. It was from that angle that the $25,000 were coming. और आज कहाँ रुके हम लोग? अरे वो सब कहाँ पता, किसको पता क्या हुआ. अरे आपने पैसा भेजा, आप वहां पे यूज नहीं करो, चलो लेके आओ वापस. अरे क्यों भाई? Current account transaction rules, as a promise by government of India to the IMF, it says that under current account transaction rules, individuals in India will be free to repatriate any amount they want. They can apply reasonable restrictions. Reasonable restrictions का क्या मतलब होता है? भाई आप गैम्बलिंग के लिए मत भेजो, आप डेरिवेटिव्स के लिए मत भेजो, आप वो सट्टा खेलने के लिए मत भेजो, ठीक है? Those are reasonable restrictions. Can you actually have a limit on the LRS transactions? Point with Indians is that we always accept the laws which are made on us without question. हम कुछ भी करें, और now the problem is that the government also has become such कि representation करो तो वो तो जाता है कचरे के डब्बे में. Hardly ever changes are happening unless there is a hue and cry which wakes up Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman in the dead of the night to make changes on the overnight basis. These are the only way changes are happening, unfortunately. And that is where we are today. We are today in a position where LRS is confused. People administering LRS are confused. TCS provisions have been brought from the start, go into an probably incomplete manner, because now they will come out with FAQs. Should it not be the other way around? Should it not be that first we do a stakeholder discussion? आप पहले लेके आओ भाई क्या डिस्कस करना है, हम ये ला रहे हैं, हम क्या थोड़ी भाग जाने वाले हैं क्या? हाँ नहीं ये लोग TCS ला रहे हैं, हम लोग इंडिया छोड़ के भाग रहे हैं. What is the reason? They could have very well brought in. It could have been a 6-month dialogue process. भाई लेके आओ, क्या लाना है नहीं लाना है, आपका grievance क्या है, do you feel that okay चाहिए, then you ask them to file tax return. अगर tax return का ही problem, आप tax return file करो. Tax return में कहाँ source of funds आ रहा है? I don't know if any of you see, there's a video which had gone viral. 2 tea sellers, I think in South India, they have traveled to some 17 countries across the world. Out of savings they have made from their chai selling, meaning ऐसा लगता है कि अपना bucket list क्या है. हाँ, उन्होंने अमेजिंग जॉब किया भाई, छोटा छोटा अमाउंट सेव किया, लोन लिया, लोन पे किया, और फिर फॉरेन टूर एंड ट्रैवल पे गए. अभी आप उनको बोलोगे नहीं अभी आप 20% ज्यादा भरो, कहाँ से लाओगे? But point is that you need to involve your stakeholders. You don't know who they are, you don't know how many they are. वो डिस्कशन के बाद आप लाओ, बेकायदा लाओ, आपको जो ग्रीवेंस है आप रिजॉल्व करो. आप उनको चाहिए तो ऑटोमेटिक लेके आओगे भाई, चलो यू विल हैव टू बी ऑटोमेटिकली गिव अ डिक्लेरेशन कि भाई ये सोर्स ऑफ फंड्स है, आप एक पूरा लेटर दे दो, मेरा ये सोर्स ऑफ फंड्स है और ये टैक्स पेड अमाउंट है, इसी में से सोर्स ऑफ फंड्स निकला है. सीए सर्टिफिकेट लेके आइए, हमें वो भी कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. बट द पॉइंट इज दैट दैट हैज नॉट हैपेंड, एंड देयरफॉर I am telling it very nicely here, but we are in interesting times ahead. So I think I will conclude here. Many thanks, Naman, for giving this opportunity, and I leave it open whatever way we want to take it forward as the session. So you have any questions or any kind of interaction, or you want me to discuss about something else, I'll leave it to you.
So, yeah, there are numerous questions in the chat box, but so we'll take them one by one. But
Sure.
the sense we can gather from the general things which are happening, a couple of things like we are sitting at a good pile of $600 billion, and still we are thinking on such small sums is something which is sometimes very, very difficult. And we have seen, and I know that all of us, when we interact to any foreign party and explain this provision, they are baffled by these rules. FDI coming in, you have 100 rupees extra coming in the bank account, and then you remit it back, and so or something or the other. And it really, when you know something like this and you tell to your client, they say, "अच्छा, आप ये क्यों बता रहे हो ऐसा चीज?" ऐसा हो नहीं सकता. So this becomes a very, very troubling thing, at least from a tier 2 town perspective. I know that when you tell such kind of things and they are amazed, they are taken back कि अच्छा ऐसा भी हो सकता है, you can't bring that much money, अब मैं 1000 रुपए extra भी लेके आ जाऊंगा तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है, and all that stuff. And the kind of changes in the way they are bought, FTS royalty rate just 4-5 that's a general sense of kind of when and how things will change, you don't know, and without no rhyme and reason. जैसा आपने बोला कि वो रीजन नहीं दे रहे, वो बता रही है ये है, so there is no reason per se. So I think that is something which is difficult to digest. Rutvik, I think your screen has frozen.
Okay.
Hello.
I think there's some network issues, I believe.
There is some network issues.
He's joining again, I believe.
Okay. So we have certain questions. I think once he joins, we can take those questions one by one.
Yes. If you can maybe call him once and ask it.
Yeah, I have just calling him.
Maybe by then, maybe people who have queries, they can just pour in their queries in the chat, and if they want to ask it directly, it will be better if you can raise hands.
They can raise their hands.
Yeah. So as and when he's back again, we can directly ask the queries to him. Yeah, I think he's back. Sir is back.
Yeah, आपका शायद. Okay. He is just joining in.
Yeah, I think he's back. I can see him in the list.
So I think Monarch wants to ask a question.
Monarch has some question.
No, sir, I did not want to ask. I wanted to congratulate you and your team for such a great thing that you are doing since last this. We have been constantly following, and I have been recommending it to my colleagues also who are developing an international tax, the page that you are running, Saturday International Tax Gyan and Family. So sir, thank you for doing this consistently and helping members like us, So congratulations to whole team.
Thank you, Monarch. Thank you so much for your love.
I think Monarch to add some queries also. Yeah,
I posted it on the group. I posted it on.
I think Rutvik has not yet joined.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's here. I'm admitting it. Yes, I think.
Extremely sorry. I think something happened at my end. अभी हर मीटिंग में कुछ एक टेक्निकल ग्लिच ना हो तो इनकम्प्लीट लगता है तो.
Then it doesn't feel like a Zoom meeting.
Extremely sorry.
So we have some questions. So anybody who wants to raise hands and ask question, then that also is fine. And otherwise, we have certain questions.
So I think that would be better if there are so many questions in the chat box. So shall I start repeating the questions, or I think the better thing will be if somebody can raise the hand and then can have a one-to-one.
Yeah, we have let's say 10 minutes for question and then 10 minutes we end.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
sorry, because my chat box, the past questions have got deleted.
Oh, it has gone.
Joined
Sure,
back.
sure.
Monarch, you can
Somebody will have to
ask
respond.
your question.
Hello. Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, Monarch.
Yeah. So one of the question which I had was since sir said ICC and IDC payment up to 7 lakhs are out of the LRS, so there will be no applicable.
I think that not be there, and then once once that threshold increases, then the LRS will then the TC.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Also, Naman sir, I had a query, which I think once Rutvik sir is back, we can ask him, or if you can also answer it. Supposing foreign company books tour package for the business purpose from Indian tour operator for its Indian director. So ultimately for Indian director, it becomes an overseas tour package. And for foreign company, payment will be made by the foreign company. In that case, whether TCS of that overseas tour operator will apply was my question, which I also got a question.
Yeah. So foreign company, what you're saying is foreign company is booking tour for the director, who is situated in India.
Correct.
So foreign company making payment to foreign operator, I don't think so that would be covered. Okay, it would be from Indian director, and that would be more from a business perspective. So I don't think so that would still get covered, but maybe it's an interesting query.
He's saying about the Indian tour operator, I believe.
Correct. Whether Indian tour operator should conservatively collect TCS, because for him to pay, it is for
Indian tour operator. Okay. So maybe Rutvik is there. Punar, you can pose your question once again.
Okay, sure.
I'm so sorry, friends. I don't know what internet issue is somewhere. So sorry. Tell me.
Yeah, Monarch, you can just ask your query once again. Yeah.
Hi, Rutvik sir, Monarch this side. I had a query from the point of view of TCS for Indian tour operator. Now, what is happening is foreign companies trying to book overseas tour package for its Indian director, and so payment will be made by the foreign company. For Indian tour operator, is it necessary for him to collect TCS even for the foreign company if it is for an overseas tour package for Indian director?
See, the point here is actually a very fine question that you brought out. The issue is that where does the personal LRS equation come in? It is when I am personally going outside India for a tour and travel. And I think they have kind of clarified that if you're going for business travel, then they will not capture it under this route, as long as the employee makes it and borne by the employer. The problem is, in your case, what you're saying is that the employer or the holding company is probably bearing it for the directors in India for their foreign tour and travel. Exemption नहीं दिया है, कहाँ cover हो सकता है? As long as it is an expense of the company per se, I'm very clear there will be no LRS. Because it is for the purpose of the company's work that the person is going abroad. It is a company's expense. That is what they mean to say when it is said borne by the employer. But in a case where a person is himself traveling abroad and in his personal capacity agar karna hai, but the payment is borne by the employer for some particular reason, which may be tomorrow deducted from his personal salary, तो फिर वापस ये अपना TCS और LRS आ जाएगा. Now we will debate all this and who will ask and who will probably correct it, God only knows. But prima facie, what your question was that a foreign company, when it pays to a local tour operator, as long as the company itself is bearing it as at its expense, then I don't see any implications of LRS on such a transaction, of TCS on LRS on that. As I told you, they have very in fact brought out as residual current account transaction. वो word कहाँ है नहीं, but इनके FAQ में आ रहा है that a residual current account transaction means exactly that. A company's own expense. In any case, here it's a foreign company making a payment to an Indian travel tour and travel agent. तो LRS में तो क्या current account में भी नहीं आता है. It's a foreign company making a payment. उसको कहाँ कुछ नहीं है. From that context, I don't see. They may ask for a PAN detail because वो reporting कुछ इनको करना पड़ रहा है SFT के नीचे. That's a different case. But otherwise, it's not LRS as long as it's a company bearing that expense.
Just to add, Monarch, if I believe, just to add to this, I believe Monarch, if I'm correct, in section 2061G, where there is a TCS in relation to the sale of tour package, there they have just mentioned that every person who is selling a tour package for a tour outside India, correct? So I think even if they are selling it to a foreign company, they will be covered under this 2061G, and I don't think there is any exemption from the definition of buyer for foreign business companies or anything. So I think they will get covered there under section 1G of 206C.
Very good point. You're right. So there'll be some of the other provision जो लोग पकड़ ही लेगा.
So overseas, sir, just to clear that it will, Naman, what you said is for Indian tour operator, whatever is the liability to collect TCS. Right? Correct. So that's where correct. So my point was from that provision only. So sir, in that case, there is no clarification per se, right?
Yeah. There is no exemption. There is no clarification in that, and they have not even given the buyer's definition for that section. Because if you go through that section, they have only given the definition of buyer for section 1, not 1G. Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry. My mistake on that ground. I think I was considering it from the LRS angle. Obviously, the intent was that, but you're right. The words do not support it. So we are in a problem.
And sir, one last query from my end. Since on the 195 basic issue, I don't know if we can deal it here right now. Naman, can I ask?
Yeah, you can go on next. SITG also. No?
Yeah. So, sir, my query was that when a buyer from India is transferring to NRO account of NRI, generally banks are not seeking 15 CACB certificate. From the 195 point of view, is buyer liable to comply with form 15 CACB without even bank asking for it?
Yes.
Naman has already answered.
I think legally it's required. If you, Naman sir, and we have discussed it many a times that whether what is a 15 CACB requirement, because people only come to us when they need a bank's requirement. But actually, if we go by law, section 195 says that any payment made to a non-resident, you are required to issue 15 CACB as per the requirements. So I think if we go by law, it is required, because even if you file TDS return, there they ask what is the 15C acknowledgement number. So they are very well linking it. So I think we should issue.
And at best, at least 15C Part D, because prima facie transfer from NRO's from NRI's own NRO account to NRE account, in one sense, there is no income element. It's money from my one pocket to my other pocket. There is no income element. It means that I do need to report under 15C Part D, but I don't need to issue a 15CB. But at the same time, if I have some income which has been transferred, like for example, capital gain है, अपना immobile property का capital gain NRO में आया, अभी वो reporting NRO में जब भी आता है ना, तभी होता नहीं है, because the seller deposits into NRO और उसको पूछा नहीं जाता है. Though obviously the buyer who is buying is responsible, but there are cases we have seen where buyer वो भाई साहब सोचता है ये तो ऐसे करेगा, ऐसा करके वो amount deposit कर देता है.
Right.
In those kind of cases, the detail must go to the tax officer, because उनको पता चलता है तभी उन लोग queries raise करते हैं कि भाई क्या हुआ. So from that angle, it has to be done. Other angle which I feel that reporting should be done anyways is from a not under 15C Part D and 15CB के साथ, is when you are trying to take a treaty relief. Because nowadays treaty relief claim has to be made. A claim has to be made by you along with TRC. From that angle, it's better to have a 15CB which clearly shows कि हाँ भाई TRC ले लिया है और हम treaty relief claim कर रहे हैं.
So just to add to this NRO question, okay, there is Amit Kirve sir who is going to ask a question. So I'm unmuting you. So if you can ask your question, sir.
Yeah, hi sir. Good evening. Amit from this side. Just, Rutvik sir, can you just touch upon again on the point related to the FAQ, any other current account transaction. I think you have explained it during the session, but it is difficult to digest at a single go because there is a lot of confusion about it. So can you just repeat on that particular part? Sorry to bother again.
No, so what I was trying to explain is that current account transaction rules, schedule 3, rule 1, has a list of transactions which are covered under the which are covered erstwhile, meaning ये पूरा current account transaction rule है तब से है, they are covering gift, donation वगैरह. Those are 8 specific transactions. Then in 2015, I believe so, they inserted one more clause. 2015, they inserted one more clause 9, which talks about any other current account transaction. In some ways, it means to say that we, आप कोई भी current account transaction करो, हम उसको capture कर लेंगे उसमें, which then would mean that if today I, as a sole proprietor, wishes to buy Microsoft Office online, then I'm making a payment to Microsoft USA, and therefore I am making a business. Even though I'm making some business payment, I have to deduct TCS under LRS. But that is where I was trying to bring out that no, those transactions have never sought to be covered. The transactions which are sought to be covered are the ones which have been specified. और एक आध दो जो है जो 2015 में उन्होंने अमेंडमेंट में निकाल दिया, that is what is sought to be covered under the any other current account transaction in clause 9. In fact, there is a master direction of 2015 which actually clarifies this. However, that is after 2015 master direction में वो clarification नहीं आ रहा है, and therefore people are confused कि भाई ये any other current account transaction में तो सब कुछ आ गया मेरा. That was never the intent. That was never the case. Current account transactions were always free to be done whichever manner you want, and that is why my example कि भैया sole proprietor में purchase goods of 10 crores, उसको कोई LRS limit आज तक भी लगाया है कि किसी ने? But that is never there because it is not under LRS. That is a residual current account transactions which are not supposed to be under LRS, and therefore TCS will also not apply, is my view. अब क्या होता है वो that is not something I can guarantee or even fathom, because the way they are transacting and they are doing it, अगर आप international credit card use करोगे, let us leave that 7 lakh threshold बाजू में, but आपने वो use करके कुछ transaction किया, probably banks will jump on it and deduct TCS, which is not right. And that is where I was saying कि LRS का थोड़ा एक शायद understanding की जरूरत है before this transaction or before this rule starts becomes applicable. I'm sorry if I answered your query or if you have any.
Yes. Thank you.
So Rutvik, while making the payment, let's say we have practically seen that people, maybe make payment by their own account and then get it reimbursed from the company. These all practical things happen by their own account and then bill is in their own name and then it goes to company. And how the banker or how anybody will see whether the payment is for a business purpose or for a personal purpose? Would they take an undertaking? Any insights on that?
Honestly, how the bank will do, तो मुझे लग रहा है जितना हमें डाउट है उतना बैंक को भी डाउट है. What I understand is that finance ministry is acting on this and is interacting with the banks on how they should apply it. Okay. And banks are giving their own suggestions, is what I have heard from bankers. Now, finally, क्या exactly आता है वो तो पता नहीं है. But you are right that how exactly the transaction, who is bearing it, किसका खर्चा है, मेरा personal नहीं है भाई, मैं तो company के लिए खर्चा कर रहा हूँ. All these kind of things may impact the TCS, but unfortunately, how they will work it out, how they will figure it out, वो God only knows. So, implementation is going to be key issues, which I feel that if they really want to drive home and they don't want to leave this transaction alone, then I think it needs a postponement of at least a year before they can come out with this. Just to give you some, reference, when equalization levy was to be, brought in, the concern was that the equalization levy also is supposed to be on credit card spends also. That time we had some interaction with the payments and settlements division within RBI. And RBI had very clearly said there is no way we can stop a credit card transaction even for a bare second to deduct and to collect something. ऐसा कोई mechanism ही नहीं है. आप reporting जो भी मांगो वो सब वो एक अलग बात है. But once the card is swiped or once you enter the data, there is nothing stopping that payment to go through. तो उसमें हम कहाँ से stop लाए? उसमें कहाँ से हम stop लाए कि नहीं रुको अभी हम लोग को कुछ खर्चा करना है. OTP and all that is also only for Indian cards on Indian website. आप Indian card लेके आप Amazon.com पे खर्चा करो, कोई OTP ही नहीं है. So that's a separate security issue. The point is that कि उनके पास कोई mechanism ही नहीं है. तो आज TCS भी अगर करना है, even for the matter that कि already जो TCS applicable था, they were doing it in what manner? कि भाई वो कार्ड इशूइंग बैंक जो है वो पहले ही बोल देगा भाई हम तुम्हारा 20% पहले ही काट लेंगे बैंक अकाउंट में से, फिर आप क्रेडिट कार्ड ट्रांजेक्शन करो, एंड देयरफॉर who knows कि वो LRS लिमिट इम्पैक्ट होगा 20% से. आई डोंट थिंक सो, इट शुड नॉट, बिकॉज टैक्स इज टैक्स. आई एम नॉट रेमिटिंग फॉर द पर्पज ऑफ टैक्स, सो देयरफॉर वो LRS लिमिट से बाहर होना चाहिए. बट ऑल दीज इश्यूज विल क्रॉप अप, बिकॉज वो बैंक कहाँ से काट रहा है, कैसे काट रहा है. कोई बैंक बोलेगा नहीं नहीं यार मैं तो तेरा LRS लिमिट में ही कंसिडर कर लूंगा, तो कौन झगड़ने जाएगा? who will go and who will ask? So these are questions, meaning ऐसे तो cases today morning we saw around 22. I am confident कि वो 50-60 cases ऐसे आ जाएंगे where you will not be able to understand कि exactly करना क्या है.
Okay, so we end. You have one query, Naman?
एक क्वेश्चन मेरा भी था, जस्ट ऋत्विक सर, कि I am not a FEMA expert, I don't practice also in FEMA, but liberalized remittance scheme LRS, from what I understand, is it is a scheme where you can transfer money outside India, correct? So उसके लिए है liberalization where you are transferring money outside India for your personal purposes or your personal use, correct? Now when we were discussing, there was a point where we mentioned that I think Girish ji will also have raised the same point, that agar if I am transferring or giving a gift to even if my relative or non-relative in his NRO account, will it be covered under LRS? Because there is no remittance which is going outside India. It's a remittance in India itself.
That is exactly what they want to cover with this amendment. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think I got your question. That is exactly what I covered in those slides, where it says that वो पहले out of India था, वो delete कर डाला है. So now you remit to a NRO account also. It is a remittance to a non-resident. Remittance means what? Remittance does not mean कि her remittance is outside India. Remittance means nothing but payment.
Correct.
Remittance outside India were the words which were used. So outside India निकाल दिया है. Now you remit to a non-resident in India also in this NRO account. आप gift दो, आप जो भी दो, it is all now under LRS route है, तो it will be under 20%, and that is the spelling there.
ये अमेंडमेंट आई थिंक बहुत लोगों से मिस होगा, बिकॉज़ आई फ्रैंकली वाज नॉट अवेयर ऑफ इट.
FM है ना, FM एक बार उनके नॉन रेजिडेंट रिलेटिव को गिफ्ट करेंगे ना, तभी सब तभी सारे प्रोविजन डिलीट कर डालेंगे.
करेक्ट.
Great.
So I think we have queries, but if time permits, Naman sir can tell me.
Yeah, we already very close to closure. We have some 5-10 minutes of further proceedings, so I think it's back to Yati. Okay. Yes, Yati.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge with us. We are overwhelmed by the views presented by you, especially the way you explained the TCS rates, the chronology of amendments in LRS, removal of relaxation, and the various conditions attached to it. It was really helpful for us. Thank you once again for gracing us with your presence. Now, I would like to invite Sri Naman Malu sir, partner in direct taxes. He will ponder upon the motivation that drove him and his team to nurture the concept of Saturday International Tax Gyan for 3 long years and still going strong.
Yeah, thank you Yati for the introduction. So जो जैसा हर्षिता ने कहा कि it's been like उसको जैसे टाइम होता है, तो when we are sharing this Saturday International Tax Gyan, और जैसे हम FEMA के फंडे भी रिलीज करते हैं, so rather than benefiting it for the people, we believe कि हमारा ही ज्यादा बेनिफिट हो जाता है इसके अंदर, because when we prepare this और when we find out something कि यार इस वीक देना क्या है, तो उसमें हमारा रिसर्च भी हो जाता है कि भाई अच्छा ये भी हो गया, ये भी एक टॉपिक है जो निकल के आ रहा है. जैसे कि अभी जो 20% का अमेंडमेंट आया FTS उसके अंदर, या फिर मान लेते हैं LRS के अंदर जो अमेंडमेंट्स आए, तो वी हैव टू रीड आवरसेल्व्स. तो जब भी आप किसी को प्रेजेंट करते हैं, दैट्स माय बिलीफ कि व्हेनेवर यू आर प्रेजेंटिंग एनीथिंग फॉर एनीवन, it's your preparation because you are getting more knowledgeable for preparing for someone else. So यही आई थिंक एक ऐसी चीज है जिसमें आप खुद का बेनिफिट करके लोगों को रिलीज किए जा रहे हो. एंड 3 साल हो गए, इट कुड बी अ लॉन्ग टाइम, बिकॉज आई थिंक अराउंड 150-155 प्लस SITGs हमने निकाल दिए होंगे. बट अभी भी इंटरनेशनल में ऐसा लगता है, लिसनिंग टू ऋत्विक सर, मे बी लिसनिंग टू ऑल अदर who are having so much knowledge and who are having so much experience, अगर वो लोग ये बोल रहे हैं कि हम लोग को अभी भी लग रहा है कुछ नया आ रहा है, तो हमने तो अभी क्या ही किया 3 साल के अंदर. हमने तो अभी खाली चालू किया, हमने तो खाली 2-3 कॉन्सेप्ट पढ़ लिए होंगे. बट अभी आई थिंक देयर इज अ लॉन्ग वे टू गो, एंड अभी भी चलता रहेगा, आगे चेंजेस आते रहेंगे. एंड इंटरनेशनल टैक्सेशन में जिस तरीके के अमेंडमेंट्स ये ला रहे हैं, मतलब जैसा ऋत्विक सर ने कहा कि दे आर नॉट इवन कंसल्टिंग एनीवन बिफोर गेटिंग द अमेंडमेंट्स. वो अमेंडमेंट्स लाते हैं, फिर देखते हैं कि यार इसके अंदर क्या रूल्स बनाने हैं, क्या FAQs होने हैं. वो हो रहा है एक्चुअली में. अभी इन्होंने 20% TCS ले आया FTS और रॉयल्टी के ऊपर. इन्होंने जो LRS के अंदर चेंजेस कर दिया, एंड देन दे ब्रिंग FAQ। या फिर एक एग्जांपल इनकम टैक्स में मैं लूँ तो 194BB का जो प्रोविजन लेके आए गेमिंग के ऊपर, देन दे आर ब्रिंगिंग द FAQs एंड देन दे टेल कि अच्छा इसका क्लैरिफिकेशन ये है एंड ऐसा है। तो अभी जो इनकम टैक्स या फिर इंटरनेशनल टैक्स इन जनरल में जो चेंजेस हो रहे हैं और जो अमेंडमेंट्स आ रहे हैं, आई थिंक इट्स इंटरेस्टिंग टाइम फॉर अस यंग प्रोफेशनल्स हु आर एंटरिंग दिस फील्ड, क्योंकि चेंजेस हो रहे हैं, बहुत सारी नई चीजें आ रही हैं। एंड व्हेन वी आर डिस्कसिंग इट विथ एनीवन, इवन इफ नाउ इफ आई सिट विथ नमन सर, कुछ भी हम डिस्कस करते हैं, कल ही हम एक प्रोविजन डिस्कस कर रहे थे जिसके अंदर हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि जो 10F है वो कब चाहिए होता है, कब नहीं चाहिए होता है। एंड वी वर रीडिंग जस्ट 2 लाइन्स और उसमें हमको लगा यार ये सही भी रीड हो रहा है, इसके अंदर चाहिए या नहीं चाहिए। तो इंटरनेशनल टैक्सेस में भी इतने, मतलब इन लॉ इन जनरल इतनी सारी चीजें हैं, इफ यू रीड 1 लाइन आफ्टर और बिफोर, और उसको किस स्पीड में आप रीड कर रहे हैं, कहाँ कॉमा यूज कर रहे हैं, नहीं कर रहे हैं, उससे ही बहुत सारी चीजें चेंज हो जाती है। एंड अगेन DTAA इज अ मोर कॉम्प्लिकेटेड थिंग इन दैट, because it is giving you another relief against the income tax law that we are already reading. So I think it is a good journey and it is going to go long, और हम लोग इसी के अंदर कोशिश करते रहेंगे जो भी नए केस लॉज आ रहे हैं, जैसी भी चीजें आ रही हैं, उसको हम और बेटर वे में प्रेजेंट करें, सो दैट इट्स इजी फॉर अदर पीपल। हमने मेहनत कर ली, अब हमने उसको थोड़ा इजी बना दिया हमारे हिसाब से, जितना हम कर सकते थे। नाउ वी बिलीव कि बाकी लोगों को उससे थोड़ा और बेनिफिट मिले एंड दे कैन गो ऑन एंड रीड इट इन अ इजी मैनर। आगे कुछ अनाउंसमेंट्स भी हैं, आगे और सारी चीजें अभी हम करेंगे। नमन सर विल अनाउंस सम 1 or 2 अनाउंसमेंट, जिसके अंदर आपकी अगर कोई क्वेरीज रह भी गई हो, आई बिलीव कि वो आप उस अनाउंसमेंट के थ्रू आप सॉल्व करवा सकेंगे। सो आई थिंक दैट्स इट फ्रॉम माय साइड। हमारा 3 साल हुआ है, हम सोचते हैं कि आगे 30 साल और भी इसको कंटिन्यू करेंगे, एंड तब तक इंटरनेशनल टैक्स चलते रहेगा एंड कुछ ना कुछ चीजें चेंजेस आते रहेंगे। सो आई थिंक ओवर टू यू यति।
Thank you, Naman Malu sir. Followed by it, we shall play a short video on the journey of 3 years, 156 weeks, every Saturday that SITG has come through. So let's enjoy the journey through a short video. A journey, mix of emotions, hard work, commitment. This video shows it all. Precisely, many more years to come. In the end, I would like to invite C. Naman Shimal sir to give the vote of thanks for today's webinar. And thereafter, Naman sir will also present e-mementos to our esteemed guest, C. Rutvik Sanghvi sir.
Thank you, Yati. Unfortunately, Rutvik had some prior commitment at 6, so he left. So I will maybe call him up and say thanks. But towards the end of this session, just a sec. Yeah, sorry for the small disruption. Yeah, so I was saying that the journey of 3 years of SITG has been really, really, amazing. And as all of, both Harshita and Naman said, that we have learned the most. But yeah, at the same time, I think we have got a lot of love from a lot of people who have given us valuable feedback and given us various comments and how to do things in a better manner. And I think we would that is the energy which will keep us going. I also thank Naman and the tax team and Harshita and the TP team to work on these various. I think tight deadlines, which we have internally created for ourselves, because every week, mind you, it's not it's not easy to deliver it every week and bring such a amazing content. So thank you both of you, Naman and Arshita, for such an amazing consistency is important, and that is what we have proved. And I think we will keep doing that. And thank you all of you viewers who have come and come on this today's anniversary and wished us. We want to announce that we earlier had a Telegram group on which we were taking our both the I would say FEMA Ke Fund and SITG both the publication. We are also now starting with a WhatsApp group. I think it is more user friendly and more people are there on WhatsApp with the name of International Tax Gyan. So if some of I think Pulkit or Yati, if you can share the QR code. If you can scan this QR code by opening your WhatsApp, then I think that will directly link you to this group, and you can get our update without any delay. So if maybe you are not, maybe let's say you're not following us on LinkedIn, or let's say you're not on our broadcast list, you can still be getting all our updates on related to international tax, related to FEMA, related to budget over this. So I request all of you to scan this. And at the end, yeah, happy learning, happy sharing. Thank you all of you.
Pulkit, this is a wrong QR, please. WhatsApp wala QR lagana. This is for the meeting.
Okay, this is for the meeting.
Yeah, sir, you can continue by then.
Yeah, so, and we also have a QR for feedback form. So are you sending that? Or we can send on mail. If it's not available right now, Pulkit, it's fine. We will be sending on the mail. That is also not an issue. Maybe you can send you can show the QR code for feedback, and then people can give us the feedback, and then we'll send that on to mail also. I'll try and get PPT of Rutvik also, and then we get that also while sending. That is there.
So we can show the feedback QR right here, and we can then mail that WhatsApp group QR code to all the participants and to everyone who ever.
Sure. So yeah, thank you so much. Happy learning, happy sharing, and Yati, you have to conclude.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable insights and noteworthy words of wisdom. In the end, we shall wrap up today's event with lots of takeaways and learnings, which shall be cherished by all of us in the years to come. I would like to express my gratitude towards our eminent personality and our beloved audience for taking their precious time out for today's event. Also, I would like to request you all to fill the feedback form, for which QR code is available on your screen, and this would help us to improve in future. So this is the QR code for the feedback form. Hope you all have a great time today. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Wonderful day.